On this episode of MythBusters, we lock and load, get lost,
behold the Heinemann in his natural habitat,
and let loose.
Whoa!
First up, Adam and Jamie look into the age-old anomaly that while blindfolded,
I feel like I'm doing pretty good.
it's supposedly impossible to travel in a straight line.
You drove us into the middle of a field.
Then,
Somebody order a car?
Carrie, Grant, and Tori find out if a fender bender could detonate a trunk full of special effects explosives.
This is our target car.
Stand by for a rocket-propelled car crash. Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage.
I am the master of the sun.
And Jamie Heineman.
Bye-bye.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience. Together with Grant Imahara, Carrie Byron,
Hi, Grant.
and Tori Belleci. They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test. Watch out, because Adam and Jamie are about to walk, swim, and drive blindfolded.
What's with the blindfold?
Well, you ever work on something and it's not going the way you want it to and you feel like you're just going around in circles?
I know exactly what you mean.
Excellent, because that is what this story is all about. The myth is that a human, when blindfolded, cannot travel in a straight line.
Really?
It turns out that not only can't we walk in a straight line, but that left to our own devices, we will actually walk in circles, and that this might be one of the reasons we might get lost in the woods. I thought with all your survival training, you'd love this story. Hello, Jamie? Oh, he's gone.
It's a deceptively simple concept that has puzzled serious scientists for 100 years. Supposedly, when blindfolded, it's impossible for humans to travel, whether on foot, in water, or by road, in a straight line. It's a challenge Adam and Jamie just can't resist.
Come on back in here. Did you even hear a word that I said?
Yeah, humans can't move in a straight line while blindfolded.
That's the story. How do you want to test it?
Well, when I think about moving in a straight line, I think about walking.
I think you might be right. Is that where you want to begin?
Yeah, all we need is a couple blindfolds and a big wide open field.
Let's do it.
A big field, you say? How about this one?
Our testing here is pretty straightforward. We've got a field in which we can walk 3,000 feet in any direction that we choose. We've got a blindfold. This one here is from my personal collection, and headphones to remove any other stimulus, and we're just gonna try and walk in a straight line and see what happens.
Sure, we'll see what happens, but Jamie likes to be more science-y.
We've got 3 ways of telling how good we are at walking in a straight line while blindfolded. First is by using the Global Positioning System, or GPS. This little thing will be plotting a map for us that we can look at afterwards. Secondly, we've got these lovely little orange flags that we can place. You ready to go?
What?
Then lastly, we'll know if we hit the target, because we will have had to have walked in more or less a straight line to get there.
How do I think I'm gonna do? I don't think I'm gonna be able to maintain an incredibly straight line, but I don't think I'm gonna be that far off. I think I may veer to the left or to the right, but I think I'll end up pretty close to my goal of that cluster of trees over there. Or is it there?
Adam's confident.
Okay, blindfolded walking.
After all, it's level ground, there are no topographical features to navigate,
In 3,
and he can draw a bead on the target before he covers his eyes.
2, 1, go.
All he has to do is walk in a straight line with his eyes closed. How hard can it be?
It is a very weird thing to be walking without any visual or auditory stimulus.
What's really weird is apparently how surprisingly difficult it is.
You're holding a picture of it in your head, and in your mind's eye, you're walking a nice straight trajectory across that landscape. I mean, tickling at the back of your mind, you're thinking something might be wrong, but try as you might, you feel like you're walking straight. Whoa! Whoa!
You started out pretty nice, but after about 300 feet or so, you started to turn to the left, and you just kept doing that. And until you ended up right back at the fence.
I swear I thought I was walking a perfectly straight line. Nothing told me that I was possibly walking in a 200-foot diameter circle. I am totally amazed by that result.
A result nailed by the GPS trail. The astonishing disparity between Adam's perception and his actual route is there for all to see.
That is hilarious.
It's a result that begs several questions. The first of which is, will Jamie do any better?
Jamie's blind man walking in 3, 2, 1, go.
With all the confidence and certainty you'd expect from the Heineman, he strides off towards the target tree, before veering off course like he's got a short right leg. And any doubt that subtle topographical features were the reason Adam went left are dispelled as Jamie leans so far to the right, he turns back on himself in a corkscrew pattern.
I ended up right back at the road, just like you did. Clearly, I didn't know what I was doing. I was literally walking around in circles. I mean, it's not like I have a compass in my head, and so without any visual or audible cues, it's all just random.
Or is it? Time to delve deeper.
It is? Now the question we have is that leaning that we each had to one direction or the other consistent?
Walking blind, test number 2.
Is it something that can be corrected for? Well, that's what we're just about to find out.
He's doing a little better this time.
Adam's start is certainly straighter, but it's not long before the test literally takes a turn for the worse.
Test 2, I didn't walk straight, and I didn't even walk straight in the same way I didn't walk straight the first time. I went in a circle in the other direction.
Yep, 2 things are clear from Adam's second test. His route is far from straight, and there's no discernible pattern to his meanderings.
Bye.
Bye.
A theory compounded on Jamie's second test, because once again, he immediately heads off in the wrong direction.
I'm lost. Trying to walk in a straight line while being blindfolded is an exercise in futility, because without any cues like vision or sounds and so on, you're relying on purely mechanical means of determining your direction.
I feel like he's Don Quixote and I'm following him around.
But you're fluid, you're not like a machine. You can kind of meander and wander. And in fact, that's kind of what these GPS paths are showing is this looks like a meandering stream.
And that meandering, corkscrewing leads Jamie and Adam straight to a firm conclusion.
We came here to look at the myth that a person who is blindfolded cannot walk in a straight line, and we have definitely proven that with the data we've gathered.
But the myth specifically says travel and not just walk. So to complete the data set and nail the science, Adam and Jamie will be hitting the highways and waterways, attempting alternative forms of blindfold locomotion.
What's next?
Swimming blindfolded.
Well, we can't do that here.
No.
Let's go someplace else.
All right.
You're gonna love this one. This myth is about a binary explosive that is used in Hollywood effects films. A guy is transporting it in the trunk of his car. He gets rear-ended and the car explodes.
Now here's the thing, under normal conditions, until you mix the 2 parts together, the explosive is completely stable. But once they're mixed, you can set it off by shooting it with a bullet.
Okay, so the myth here is that the impact from a car crash has enough energy to actually set off this supposedly stable explosive.
Exactly. Guns, car crashes, explosions. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this.
Nope.
It's the rear-end fender bender from Hollywood that was never meant to end up on screen, considering it usually requires the impact of a gunshot to set it off. Can a trunk full of special effects binary explosive really go kablooey in a car crash?
This is the first time we've actually used this particular explosive, so I think we might have to do a little research.
Yeah, let's go to the bomb range and we'll ask ourselves 4 questions. 1, what is it? 2, how does it work? 3, will a car collision set it off? And then 4, will a bigger amount give us a bigger explosion?
Explosions at the bomb range? That's my favorite kind of research.
With those 4 questions and no small amount of mayhem in mind,
Guns and explosives, what could be better?
the MythBusters rock up to the bomb range, where it's time for a little shoot and tell.
This is the Hollywood binary explosive of the myth. You've got an oxidizer and a catalyst. The beauty of this, on their own, they're virtually inert. But if you mix them together and shoot them with a high-powered rifle, you get a super fast chain reaction that gives you a really nice explosion.
This is the first time we've used it on our show, but it shares many similarities with other high explosives that we have used on our show. Namely, it requires a shock wave in order to set it off. A hammer won't do it. Small handgun fire won't do it. Even automatic small caliber fire won't do it. You need a high-powered rifle, and that's what we're going to use.
And this is the gun. It's a 308 sniper rifle. This thing has a muzzle velocity of 2,500 feet per second. That's plenty of power to set off our binary explosive. Okay, here we go, firing. Now, the plan is we're gonna fire into our catalyst.
Okay, catalyst to load.
No explosion. And then we're gonna fire into our oxidizer. No explosion.
Time to mix them.
Then we're gonna mix the 2 components together, fire into that, and see if it explodes. Now, if it explodes, that tells us a very important thing about this myth. The chemicals were mixed in the back of this guy's trunk, which means that guy was crazy. All right, this is the mixed binary explosive. You guys ready?
Ready. Did you mix it good?
Oh, I did.
Wow! That was a good pop.
So we've come out to the bomb range to find out exactly what we're dealing with. Turns out we're dealing with something pretty awesome. You mix it together, you add a little energy from a high-powered rifle, and you get a chemical reaction that results in a cloud of rapidly expanding gases, or as we like to call it, an explosion.
Now the question is, what's next? Does more equal more? If we ramp up to a trunk full of this stuff, how much bigger will the explosion be?
That's right, it's bigger boom time.
Our myth-busting pedestrians have already established that blindfolds and straight lines don't mix.
Whoa!
But how about other types of travel?
I can't believe we didn't get pulled over.
We've already established that when blindfolded, we were unable to walk in a straight line. Now, it's time to find out if we're able to swim in a straight line while blindfolded.
Each of us will take a turn putting on a pair of blacked-out swimming goggles. Then we'll see if we can swim a straight line from here to the reflector across the lake. The GPS will tell us how we did.
You know what I like about tests where I get to wear a wetsuit? Tight material tends to hold me in a little bit, make me look a little less tubby. It's not working, is it? Oh, crap.
Speaking of body shape,
GPS'd me.
is the wonky walking of the previous test all about that particular method of movement?
Oh, it's cold.
Will the biomechanics of swimming keep our out-of-shape swim team on the straight and narrow? Well, a mere 30 feet into the test, it's clear that the blindfold, by blocking out any visual landmarks, makes the answer a drifting, dizzying no.
He's swimming around and around in a corkscrew.
Once again, the really compelling detail is not how far off course Adam is straying,
I must be close.
but that he thinks he's going straight.
I feel like I'm doing pretty good. In my mental landscape, target's still right there.
No, Adam, it isn't.
Take a look at Adam's GPS trail. He made 3 complete circles, almost the same size. And what that tells me is that he's got some bias to swim in that direction. And unless he has vision to straighten that out, that's just what he's going to do.
Jamie has a good point. Perhaps Adam has a left-biased swimming stroke. Let's see if the walrus can do any better.
I'm ready.
Well, Adam didn't do so well. Will I be able to do any better? Without any kind of reference, I don't see why I would.
Aiming blindfolded for a target straight across the lake, 2 things are clear. For a marine mammal, he's clearly not at home in the water. And his pre-test prediction was right, as well as the occasional left, followed by a right, some more right, and, well, you get the picture.
Well, Jamie didn't fare any better than I did in attempting to swim in a straight line. In fact, he fared far worse. He did have the intuition in the middle that things were going horribly awry,
I get the feeling I'm swimming in a circle.
whereas I thought I was heading straight for the target.
Verdict time. Is it possible to swim in a straight line while blindfolded?
No,
So what's next?
driving.
I love it.
Can the impact energy of a fender bender set off a trunkload of binary explosive and blow a car to smithereens? Carrie, Grant, and Tori are at the bomb range aiming to find out.
Wow! That was a good pop.
So we know from working with explosives like AMPO, when you use more of it, you get a bigger boom. It seems pretty obvious. But that might not actually be the case here. In special effects, they use really small quantities. One load is only ½ a pound. And in fact, when it's mixed, it's really, really stable. So what we need to know is if a single bullet will actually detonate the entire batch when you're using a very large quantity.
All right, this is Hollywood binary explosive double load.
Send it. Now, as you can see from the destroyed box, doubling the material gave us at least double the explosion, if not more. But now what we want to see is if you had multiple cans mixed up, would hitting one of them set off a chain reaction, or would the one that got hit by a bullet just explode? So we're going to mix up 5 jars of this stuff, line them up, take a shot at one, and see if it sets off the rest.
We've already established that the material had to have been transported pre-mixed. And if so, it was likely to be stored in multiple containers. So the question is, will a single impact set off a chain reaction?
All right, here we go. Wow! There you go. That was awesome. We got a chain reaction. They all went off. Totally.
I like combining guns and explosives.
Yeah.
All right.
And when we first started this story, we had 4 questions. What is this explosive? How does it work? Does more equal a bigger boom? And can a car crash set it off? Well, we have answers to the first 3. We know what it is, we know how it works, and we know that one small canister will detonate a chain reaction in a much larger batch.
Before we tackle the final question, there's something that's been kind of bothering us. The driver of the car claims the impact blew his car up. Now, this is an explosive that they use in special effects, right? It could just be a puff of smoke for the camera. So I think we need to find out if it can do the material damage that the myth implies. Now, for that, we've picked out a couple pretty random items to do some tests on.
And first up, Carrie has chosen melons, which shows the effect of the binary explosive is more than just special.
Raining watermelon.
That was great. Me? I'm gonna blow up my old TV.
And that proves it's not just a flash in the film can.
That was a beautiful thing.
Finally, it's Tori's turn.
I've always wanted to kill a zombie. Where did I get a zombie? Roll the tape.
Yep, seizing the opportunity to satisfy his professional model-making urges
Zombies are cool.
and a childhood dream to shoot a realistic-looking zombie, Tori uses a spare lunch hour, or 3,
Zombie intestines.
and really goes to town, bringing his creation to life.
He's alive. Or reanimated. Bring on the apocalypse. Killing the undead in 3, 2, 1.
In reasonable quantities, binary explosives clearly have a detonation that could damage a car, and are not just a puff of Hollywood smoke, which leaves one final piece of this puzzle: the initiating impact.
So the big question is, will a high-energy impact other than a high-velocity round be enough to set off our binary explosives? That's right, we are about to see if we can create an explosion from a car crash.
In the myth of the exploding fender bender, Carrie, Grant, and Tori are having fun playing with guns and blammo.
All right, so we know that our Hollywood binary explosive needs to be mixed to go off. We also know that it takes a high-velocity round to make it explode. And that it can go off in a chain reaction even if it's in several different little containers.
So now we want to see if an impact will set off this binary explosives, just like in a car crash. So we brought out our giant steel fist. You might remember this from car flips. This thing weighs 1,500 pounds. We're gonna take it up with the crane, drop it on one load of our binary explosive and see if that impact is enough to set it off.
So we've got our fist suspended over the impact zone with our Hollywood binary explosive down at the target area. Now, why this might work? Well, the round that we've been using to successfully trigger our binary explosive is a 308. It has a kinetic energy of approximately 3,840 joules. Our fist, on the other hand, has a kinetic energy 27 times that, over 100,000 joules. That just might be enough energy to trigger the explosion.
It's true that the manufacturers claim only a high-powered rifle will set it off.
Ready?
But put it this way.
Steel fist onto one load of binary explosive.
When we approached the relevant authorities,
In 3,
the only place they'd let us do this experiment
2,
was at the bomb range.
1. No explosion. Big thump.
Well, the test did bomb, in the sense that the fist fender bender failed to detonate the explosive, which leaves the team pondering where to next.
Right now, it is not looking good for this myth.
Well, maybe with a car crash, you might even have more kinetic energy. We have heavier cars, we have faster speeds, and maybe there's metal flying around. It still could be possible.
All right, let's set up for that.
While the 1,500-pound steel fist of fury racks up an impressive amount of impact energy, it hasn't got the same chaotic, shrapnel-producing quality of a real fender bender.
Dig a big hole, you need a big shovel.
So to replicate the exact conditions of the mythical scenario, the team is setting up for an actual car crash
Somebody order a car?
in a controlled environment.
Now, you'll notice we're not on a road or on a runway. Turns out it's really hard to find a place that'll let you crash a car with explosives. So this is our answer. We're going to bury a car halfway deep so that just the trunk's sticking out. Recreate the crash by dropping another car at 150 feet so that it hits at freeway speed with 50 pounds of binary explosive in the trunk.
All right, so now that we have our hole dug, it's time to put our car nose down into the hole. This way, the car won't move at all when we drop the other car from 150 feet from the crane into the trunk.
Looks like we caught a big one.
With 50 pounds of pre-mixed binary explosive in the trunk, 20 times more than this, it could well be the end of the road for our flame-covered friend.
All right, car's loaded. Let's drop a car on it.
We're at almost doubling the speed, and the collision will create 880,000 joules of kinetic energy.
Yeah.
I still don't think it's gonna explode.
Well, there's only one way to find out. Dropping a car from 150 feet at 60 miles an hour and crashing it into another car that's standing on end, half buried in the ground, with a trunk full of explosives. Just another day at the office.
All right, this is freeway speed.
100 loads of binary explosive in the trunk, rear end collision. In 3, 2, 1. Correct hit. That's a great hit.
No explosion.
No explosion, and with the circumstances of the myth recreated exactly, albeit at 90 degrees, the damning conclusion is quick to follow.
We wanted to create a crash at freeway speed. I think we did one better. Why? Because that car's buried into the ground. It had nowhere to go. That means it absorbed all the energy of the collision. Still, No explosion. This myth is busted.
Under normal circumstances, the myth is busted. But can the impact from a fender bender ever initiate an explosion under any circumstances? To find out, this story is getting supersized.
I think we need more speed. Some extreme speed.
Well, we could make a rocket-powered car. I mean, that would give us a lot of speed.
All right, road trip. I hope this works.
Having walked wonky and swum squiggly, the myth that it's impossible to stay on the straight and narrow while blindfolded is looking good. But our dynamic duo are covering all of their bases and taking human locomotion out of the equation. Even with the aid of a machine, can you travel a straight line while sight deprived?
So blindfolded driving, should we get to it?
I think so. This test is really simple. Once again, we're going to use blinders and hearing suppression, and all we're going to do is try and drive a straight line right towards the city of San Francisco.
This is our vehicle, a gas-powered golf cart. After a few modifications, it's going to be the perfect testbed platform for us.
So that we can tell where we've been, we're going to attach this sports chalker to the back of our golf cart, and that line's going to tell the whole story.
They'll also be using their trusty GPS unit to plot their course electronically.
There we go.
And in this most straightforward of tests, Adam thinks he's about to bust the myth by doing just that, going straight.
I do have a prediction for this test. I don't think it's going to be very hard to drive in a straight line.
Go.
I think all I need to do is align the wheels and not move my hands. I'm holding my hand steady, but I can't shake the feeling that I'm drifting to the right.
Interesting.
Once again, Adam rejects straight line reality in favor of his own internal vision.
Okay, you're going to have to stop. Well, you can open your eyes.
I was drifting to the left?
Yep. Want to try again?
Absolutely.
But two further tests only confirm the fact that driving in a straight line is not as simple as holding the steering wheel steady.
Oh, I feel a terrain change. I think I'm in trouble.
Any number of small adjustments and corrections have to be made to stay the course.
You know, I think the wind is like giving me a false feeling of turning.
It could be.
Adjustments that are impossible to make, for Adam at least, without a visual reference.
Whoa! It drove us into the middle of a field.
Well, there you have it. You've got 3 lines, and every one of them goes off to one side or the other very quickly. No straight lines here.
Nope. And the GPS data illustrates that perfectly. The question is, can Jamie do any better on his 3 test drives?
Go!
Basically, I'm trying to focus on my internal sense of orientation, and I have to say, it doesn't feel like it's very accurate. Well, that doesn't feel right. That leaves me with only a very rough sense of what I'm doing based on the wind and the roughness of the road, which isn't a whole heck of a lot. Funny, I could be going around in circles for all I know. So this doesn't really work too well, I don't think.
Despite making it further down the runway than Adam, Jamie has only given this myth another kick in the confirmed direction.
So far, we've walked, we've swum, and now we've driven. I'll admit, I thought we weren't going to get anything out of the driving test in terms of results. But, I mean, supposedly you're in this machine where all you need to do is hold tight to the steering wheel and it'll carry you on a straight line. I'm holding my hands perfectly steady. What's wrong with me? But even in that machine, the kinesthetic feedback we're getting from the world forced both Jamie and I to make corrections. These corrections were based on a map of our landscape we had in our head, which wasn't correct, and thus our corrections were incorrect and sent us careening all over the runway. Even driving, we could not make a straight line.
It's an interesting anomaly, and there seems to be no rhyme or reason as to why we can't do it. There's no correlation between left and right-handedness or body asymmetry. It simply appears that deprived of our eyesight, we are physically incapable of maintaining the unnatural construct of a straight line. So the myth is clearly confirmed, but Adam and Jamie want to take it further and explore the real-world implications.
Okay, so a 60-mile-an-hour crash is not gonna set it off, but we can't stop there.
All right, how about this? How about instead of a regular fender bender, it was like a supercar crashing into the back of another car at, say, a couple hundred miles an hour?
I love it, and I know exactly where we're gonna go to test this.
Road trip?
Yeah, but just in case, let's not put the explosive in the trunk.
Good idea.
When ramping it up is on the menu, there's one location that's guaranteed to find the dial marked awesome, turn it up to 11, rip it off, and run away laughing.
Perfect day for science.
So we are back at New Mexico Tech, one of the most incredible test facilities in the world. Why are we here? Because of their rocket sled. Last time we were here, we split a car in half.
With this track, our rocket sled should be able to accelerate with 63,000 pounds of thrust over a quarter second, upwards of 300 miles an hour, to create what we hope is going to be the world's fastest car crash.
And this is our target car. It's completely isolated as if we're stopped on the freeway with 200 loads of mixed binary explosive in the trunk. When that rocket sled car comes crashing into the back end, we will find out once and for all if a collision has enough energy to create a detonation and give us a massive explosion.
But before the team launches a rocket-propelled fender bender, a control is required.
Now you know it's going to be a good experiment when the control test is a massive explosion.
Knowing just what kind of havoc the rocket sled can wreak, detecting whether the binary explosive has actually detonated amongst the carnage.
What an impossibly large amount of force.
May be difficult.
MythBusters version of cocktail?
Shaken, not stirred.
So to be sure, the team will set off the same amount of binary explosive, 200 loads, in the trunk of this car and establish a devastation benchmark.
This is the biggest bomb range at New Mexico Tech.
New Mexico Tech, where you can get a PhD and blow up.
In fact, it's also the most robust bunker. It is built to withstand 20,000 pounds of TNT. Our explosion's not quite that big, but it's within the spirit of the myth, a trunk full of binary explosive.
Okay, so because this is potentially so dangerous, we need to be very far away and underground. Home sweet home. So we're gonna do it the old-fashioned way. Use a detonator. All right, this is binary car control filled with 200 loads of binary explosive.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh! Wow, that was a massive explosion.
That was an incredible explosion. I mean, I had no idea that this binary explosive had this much destructive power. But we know that it took a plastic cap in order to set this off. The real question now is, will a car crash have enough energy to set this off and do the same amount of damage? Well, at least now we have a benchmark.
In the ramped-up rocket sled crash, they'll be looking for a shockwave, followed by a fireball, and the car roof being blown 200 feet in the air. And those are just the control benchmarks. With that, it's time to hit the track and set up for the fender bender to end all fender benders.
I know this engine doesn't look like much, but it's gonna be putting out 1,000,000 horsepower today.
This is the first time New Mexico Tech has actually put a car on the rocket sled. There's a lot of jeopardy here. Aerodynamically, if that car starts to lift off the track, it's going to pull that rocket sled off of the track, trash the experiment and the track.
Hence the concerted team effort preparing the impact vehicle. A truck with rockets as standard.
Now, the best part about using a truck for this is we can actually use the chassis of the truck to build into the rocket sled, so that way it's one solid unit. Now, back here is where we're gonna put our rockets. Now remember, this is the first time they are flying a vehicle down the track. Anything can happen.
But there's one thing Tori thinks won't happen.
Now we know a high-powered rifle will set off the binary explosive, and that is traveling at 2,000 feet per second, which is 1,400 miles an hour.
Wouldn't be a truck without one of these.
Now, our car is only going to be traveling at 300 miles an hour, so I have a hard time believing that that crash is going to be enough to detonate the explosive. But we have done everything we can scientifically to cover our bases. Let's see what happens.
With a trunk full of pre-mixed binary explosives in the target car,
200 loads.
all that's left to do is winch the truck back to the start of the track and add the rockets.
These are 5-inch H-bar rockets. There's going to be 10 of them on our sled. Now, they were made in the 1950s, but believe me, they still pack a punch. They're going to give us 65,000 pounds of thrust in a quarter of a second and cause the sled to experience 17 G's of acceleration. That should be more than enough to get our truck going.
So, the blindfold cleanly removed our ability to walk, swim, or even drive in anything remotely approaching a straight line.
Well, that pretty much means the myth is confirmed, doesn't it?
Yeah, but there's something that's still bugging me about this story.
What's that?
Well, under no circumstances do humans ever actually try and perambulate while blindfolded. Where's the real-world application?
What do you have in mind?
I'm thinking that if humans are supposed to get lost in the woods and that they supposedly walk in circles, let's you and me head out to the woods and see if we can get lost and end up walking in circles.
It's a plan.
Excellent.
It's widely reported that unprepared walkers lost in the woods unwittingly wander in circles. With no clear view of their destination or established landmarks, it's as if they were blindfolded. It's a potential life-saving story Adam and Jamie can't resist tackling.
Behold the Heinemann in his natural habitat.
On a clear day in unknown territory, unable to see their direction for the trees, can they stick to a pre-selected bearing?
Jamie and I are each going to choose a specific trajectory and try and walk a straight line on that trajectory while being tracked by a GPS. In 3, 2, 1, here we go. After 30 minutes, we're going to come back home and see exactly how we did.
Now, I'm not talking walking a straight line like a ruler. I'm talking I have someplace I need to get to, and I want to go there directly. And so, in this forest, without being blindfolded, I don't think it's going to be so much of a problem. The great outdoors.
Now, from a scientific standpoint, it's worth pointing out that Jamie and I are not equivalent test subjects for this experiment. Jamie has had a ton of survival training, and no, it's not because his parents abandoned him in the woods as a baby. He's actually had professionals teach him how to survive in the wilderness. I have not. It's an awful lot of downhill.
I'm going to be doing several things to keep me walking in a straight line. I'm going to try and take sightings off of trees or other landmarks, and I'm going to note my position relative to the sun. Right now, the sun is directly overhead and off to my left. And so if I want to use that to orient myself as I'm walking through the forest, all I have to do is keep it in approximately that position. Of course, as time passes, it's going to move through the sky, but I can still keep it kind of on that one side fairly easily to compensate for it, and that'll make sure I don't walk in circles.
Oh, that's the time. Time to go home.
Using their trusty GPS units, they head back to position 1, where the results are in. Despite terrain obstacles and obscured long-range visibility, Jamie, using a range of techniques, maintained a very accurate trajectory. And even Adam generally headed in the right direction. Using the sun to get his bearings, he clearly avoided the corkscrewing the myth implies.
While I might not have the survival training that Jamie has, my techniques actually worked pretty good. With the help of a gorgeous day in the sun, I was able to maintain a reasonably straight trajectory.
But for the next test, they're going to make things tougher and turn off the sun.
We have to replicate a situation that is less than optimal as far as navigating. Maybe it's a snowstorm, or maybe it's at night and all you've got is a flashlight. One way or another, you can only see in the immediate vicinity right next to you. Now, I tried a number of different things back at the shop to see if I could recreate that kind of situation.
Definitely not.
And it turns out the perfect artificial snowstorm, used by experts to train for whiteout conditions where your vision is restricted to a radius of just a few feet, is the Buckethead.
Okay, here we go.
As before, Adam and Jamie have a pre-selected bearing. They can see their feet and a limited distance in front of them.
Oh, crap.
But crucially, they can't see the sun or use long-range sight markers. But our expert outdoorsman has his technique down pat. By methodically pacing at right angles around direct obstacles,
Forward
he maintains his straight line trajectory.
and go forward again.
While Jamie robotically paces towards his goal, the extreme conditions get the better of untrained Adam.
Something tells me that things have gone horribly wrong.
Until he's simply wandering in the woods with a bucket on his head. With the test complete, the GPS results show that Urbanite Adam beautifully illustrated just how important survival training is in extreme conditions.
Look at that! I almost drew an ampersand in the woods.
In contrast, Jamie's route was indicative of his practical approach and technique.
I think we've learned an important lesson here. You don't have to obliterate someone's vision. You can just merely restrict it, and all of a sudden, they might start walking in circles.
Right, but with proper training, you can still walk in a straight line and to safety.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yep, while lost in the woods, as long as you can see the sun, anyone can walk in a straight line. However, with limited visibility, you'll need training and a disciplined approach. But is there another option for a successful escape? What about teamwork?
Let's get out of here.
I'll navigate.
All right.
One way or another, it seems that humans are not inclined to walk in a straight line if they can't see very well. It makes me wonder, though, if there's not some kind of mechanical solution.
This I've got to see.
All episode long, Adam and I have been trying to travel in a straight line.
I'm holding my hands perfectly steady. What's wrong with me?
Without very much success, I must say. He's swimming around and around in a corkscrew. But now we've had an idea that may just be the solution to our problem.
And we're not exactly sure, but the problem seems to be that lacking any stimulus, the human mind creates a landscape for itself.
Can't shake the feeling that I'm drifting to the right.
That's not exactly correct, and then makes corrections based on that landscape that lead it very far astray very, very quickly. So we thought, what if a device could be created that would allow two people working in tandem to directly, physically feel when they were being led off of a straight line?
That's when we came up with this.
By securing themselves into each end of a rigid straight line tether, the theory is physical feedback from the hip harnesses will alert them if they wander off the straight and narrow.
Hey, watch, I can make Jimmy dance.
The fatal flaw for our blindfoldees could be the high degree of teamwork required.
That's enough of that.
With their simple A to arrow course set up, it's time to turn out the lights.
I got my goggles. Here we go. And 3, 2, 1, let's go.
They're off, and the early signs are encouraging.
I feel like we're walking in a nice straight line.
Okay.
Unlike Jamie's solo efforts, when he veered off course very early, our pair of perambulators look like they've got this conundrum cracked.
Now I know what it really is like to have a monkey on your back.
But it's not long before their internal reality conflicts with the real one, and they steer off course.
In my mental landscape, we're traveling slightly to the right of the arrow. Feels like we're doing okay. I feel like you're leaning a little to the right. Our device's whole point was to try and add a kinesthetic sense to the human body that it was moving off of a straight line. And I honestly felt like we were maybe slightly veering off course, but we walked a complete horseshoe. And not once did I have the sense that we were making a tight turn. Just didn't work. We're facing where we started.
That's amazing.
The arrow's way over there. This didn't work at all.
Well, what are you going to do? That's science. You come up with a theory, you test it, either it works or it doesn't. And in this case, it didn't. So it seems that without vision, we're doomed to walking in circles.
Well, at least we're outstanding in our field.
Are we ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Right.
Well, it would seem that all of our tests have definitively shown that human beings tend to lack the ability to walk in a straight line. Now, what we haven't attempted to figure out is the why of that phenomenon. But I think it's safe to say that it's confirmed. Are you there?
I'm right here. It's totally confirmed. I agree.
That's what the detonation of a trunk full of Hollywood binary explosive looks like.
Love a good explosion in the morning.
Question is, can the impact from a fender bender initiate that explosion?
All right, ready for launch.
If a rocket-propelled truck can't do it, no conceivable car crash ever could. Because at 300 miles an hour, we're exceeding the speed of the fastest supercar on the road.
This is binary explosive versus the rocket sled.
It's this myth's final chance.
Here we go.
And final countdown.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh my God, what's happening?
What just happened was an old beat-up pickup truck powered by 10 HVAR rockets pumping out 65,000 pounds of thrust, pulled 17 Gs, and got up to almost 300 miles an hour.
Oh my God, that was awesome. Wow.
As fender benders go, that was at the end of the scale marked insane. But to find out whether the binary explosive in the trunk of the target car was detonated, the team needs to get a closer look and compare it to the control blast.
We watched 200 loads of binary explosive detonate so that we could compare it to what we just witnessed. We saw a rocket sled come down the track at almost 300 miles an hour and crash into the back end of a car with the same amount of explosive. Now, though a spectacular sight, it was not a detonation. What we saw with our explosion was a flash of fire. What we saw here was a disintegration.
Did anybody get the license plate on that car?
Now we know that our binary explosive can be set off by a high-powered rifle round. But this myth is about a collision, specifically a vehicle collision. We've continued to ramp up our speeds all the way up to nearly 300 miles per hour and still no detonation.
As incredible as it seems, the energy that could cause this type of damage was still not enough to initiate the explosion. And that's the beauty of binary explosives. Safety-conscious Hollywood special effects teams can rely on a very specific detonation fingerprint and know that any incidental impact will not have disastrous consequences. Which leaves just one conclusion.
Wow, that was incredible.
I don't think this myth can be any more busted. Now, that was a high-speed crash.
Yeah, and you know what? You're not going to see a crash like that on the road, and even if you did, there'd be no explosion. Definitely not a detonation.
All right, so a collision from a car is never going to set off a trunk full of binary explosives. This one is busted.
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 That was awesome.